What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, before I get into this video, as always, I'd like to remind you guys that if you want to show love to this channel, if you want to donate to this channel, you could do so. The links provided in the description box below, the PayPal and the Cash App, if you choose to. Now, let's talk about the Toronto Raptors fans. Now, before I do all that, let me talk briefly about the history of basketball in Canada. Now, of course, at one point in time, you had two teams in Canada in the NBA. You had the Toronto Raptors and the then Vancouver Grizzlies. Both these teams made their debut in the mid 1990s. And the Vancouver Grizzlies, they failed in Canada. They failed. Um, First of all, their first franchise player, or wannabe franchise player, Bryant Big Country Reeves, never lived up to that big contract that he signed. It wasn't that he couldn't play. He had some game, but he just never played to the level that people expected him to play. And then ultimately, he began having serious weight issues. I think he was drafted at like 265 or something like that, 270, and ultimately he blew up to over 300 pounds, and injuries eventually derailed his career and he retired prematurely. But the Grizzlies never were able to get or field a very good team. Their teams never won. Their draft picks were horrid. I remember vividly Stromile Swift, who was one of the biggest busts in the history of the NBA, one of the biggest busts. And although I think the biggest bust, I used to say Kwame Brown, but I think you might have to give the nod to Anthony Bennett. Anthony Bennett, to be a number one draft pick, was an absolute horrible fucking player. Anthony Bennett, horrible fucking player. But anyway, like I said, the Grizzlies were never able to field a good team. They never won like more than 25 games or something like that. And ultimately, because of their failures, they weren't able to get butts in the seat. They didn't have any marquee players. And ultimately, they relocated from Vancouver to Memphis back in 2002. Not Portland, Jesus, the Toronto Raptors, on the other hand, were able to succeed as long as they have because they had early initial success. I think number one part of it was their uniform. It was cool looking with the Raptor. The Grizzlies uniform sucked. Okay. Um, Also, they were able to draft the Raptors an exciting point guard. He wasn't a franchise changing point guard, in my opinion, to the point you could build a team around him like Isaiah Thomas, at least in my opinion. But he was very good. But Damon Stoudemire was an exciting player who was able to bring butts in the seat, even though they weren't winning. I remember his rookie year. I think he was rookie of the year in 95, 96, Stoudemire, Damon Stoudemire. I think he averaged like 19 points and 7 assists or something like that. And I remember he gave, and the Raptors that year, despite the fact that they were 52 games under the Chicago Bulls, they gave the Bulls problems that year. I remember there was one particular game where Damon Stoudemire crossed up Ron Harper and made him fall. You know what I'm saying? Then, of course, later on, for a brief period, they had Tracy McGrady, who eventually became a Hall of Famer. But of course, he had his best years with the Orlando Magic and Houston Rockets. But then they got the big one, Vince Carter, in that strike-shortened season in 98, 99. And Vince Carter, as hard as it is for younger people now, seeing this older, gray-whiskered Vince Carter, who just basically only averaged 7 points a game and shoots threes. Uh, Vince Carter, at one point in time, in the Y2K era, was the preeminent face of the NBA. He was the rising star. This is before Kobe Bryant took over that mantle. All right, even though there was various other stars, Allen Iverson, all that, it was Vince Carter that was really pushing for, like, I say from '99 to 2001. Matter of fact, I think it started changing right after that uh, Raptors Sixers series. I think it was right after that you saw a shift from Carter slowly to Kobe, you know, and but the Raptors were able to stay a relatively good team. They weren't basically what I mean is even years where they weren't very good, they still would win like 35 games or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately after the Vince Carter era ended, I think it was 2005 or something like that, 2006. Uh, they still had pretty good teams, and good players. Whether it was a committee team of veterans or later on Chris Bosh. People forget that last year with Toronto he put up 24 and 10. You know, he's a future Hall of Famer. And then of course you had the DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry era. Now that era has been disappointing to say the least because they just couldn't get past LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But this was the year that there was a golden opportunity for them. LeBron James, of course, left the Eastern Conference and now is in the Wild Wild West and seeing that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And the Raptors saw an opportunity where they needed a player, a superstar, to bring this team to the next level. So DeMar DeRozan was jettisoned to San Antonio in exchange for Kawhi Leonard and, people forget, Danny Green. So you got to remember the NBA does have a vested interest in having their sole remaining Canadian team to succeed. And what better way to do that than to bring a superstar to that city? So smart move by the NBA. And I do think that politics plays a role in sports. It's always still a business. Now, having said all of that, I want to thank one of my subscribers, Steph Curry the GOAT. Shout out to you for providing two links in one of your comments regarding these appalling Canadians up there. All right. There was in Jurassic Park, of course, censored from television, a fuck KD chant immediately after he suffered his injury. And you could tell that he suffered a significant injury. All right. I don't want no excuses for these guys. Their behavior was appalling, atrocious, and just quite downright inhumane. Then there was footage from inside a bar in Toronto where Raptors fans, if you want to call them that, were cheering wildly. I mean, cheering wildly after he was injured, clapping and applauding and smiling and, probably even giving each other high fives. And, it rubs me the wrong way in so many different ways because I know for a fact that if this were Dirk Nowitzki, they would not have been reacting that way. And you know where I'm going with that, and that's all I'm going to say on that one. And I don't care about the fact that Kevin Durant is a millionaire. Okay? Money seems to only be brought up when certain people get injured or certain individuals are caressed with sympathy from certain people. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about the fact he's a millionaire. That's our capitalist system. Kevin Durant is a superior basketball player in a multi-billion-dollar industry. Of course he's going to be a millionaire. Just like an entertainer who is on television on a top-rated program. He's going to be, if not a millionaire, at the very least, a highly paid thousandaire. That's the capitalist system that we live in. If you do not like it, don't watch the games anymore. Petition the NBA or the NFL to shut down and cease their operations. So these quote unquote pampered millionaires can be out on the street and see how far that's going to take you. So get over the millionaire thing. Get over that. All right. Kevin Durant puts asses in the seat. Steph Curry put asses in the seat. Klay Thompson, they put asses in the seat. People come to watch offense. Defense is appreciated. And believe me, I love defense. But it's offense that put asses in the seat for the most part. And then when you win championships, yes, you're going to get supermax contracts. That's just how that is. Now, back to these disgusting Canadians. You know, cheering and applauding and approving of a situation where you have an unfair advantage against someone else, doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like certain individuals in our country who, for decades, had an unfair practice where certain individuals were second class citizens and the playing field was leveled to their advantage? And then the minute that you griped about it, you end up missing or shot in a Lorraine hotel or set up to be jailed and imprisoned on bogus charges. And the moment that the federal government told these individuals that, hey, you, but you got to think about it though, man. You have people telling them, look, you guys got to do something about your way of life down here. Like this system, it's grossly unfair. I mean, you guys are basically keeping another group of people. You're keeping another group of people in a way of life that is just grossly inferior to your way of life. There's an unfair advantage. You know, they don't have the right to vote for the most part, even though the Constitution says they should. They don't really have any civil rights. They don't have the same economic opportunities that you guys have. They don't have the same societal status. Okay, they have to deal with so much verbal abuse and even physical abuse from individuals from other races. You got sociopathic individuals going around raping women, killing anybody just because they want to. Individuals bombing churches and killing little girls, killing civil rights leaders, even a renowned pastor, a world renowned pastor in a hotel. Something has to be done about this. And instead of them saying, you know what, you're absolutely right. This this way of life that we have down here is just deplorable for these people. We gotta level the playing field. Nope. Most of them resisted and resisted and resisted and resisted and only thought about preserving their unfair advantage. That was their biggest gripe during the Civil War, and that was their biggest gripe during the Civil Rights Movement. They wanted to preserve their quote way of life, one of the biggest misleading euphemisms ever. Our way of life, our built in advantage of white supremacy. Now I understand that Canada has no real connection to the South. I get that. But I think with some things, it's ingrained. You know what I'm saying? It's just ingrained, man. I'm sorry. you know. And that's pretty much it, man. I was rooting for the Raptors. I still like Kawhi Leonard. I would still love to see him win a championship, but I can't, in good conscience, root for this team anymore. Nah, I just can't do it. I can't root for a team where I see a great portion of their fan base cheering an injury. You know what I'm saying? It just rubs me the wrong way. Like, I could never do that, man. I could never, ever cheer an injury. And there are some people like that, man. There's some people out there that are fucked up like that. I remember the Redskins quarterback. Shit, man, the guy that played last year that broke his fibula. I remember it was an idiot coward on YouTube. You guys might remember when I post that link to that idiot. This guy was drinking beer, cheering an injury. Alex Smith. He was cheering Alex Smith's injury. Like the coward he was, he had a ski mask on. That's. I bet you he's a Raptor fan. I bet you he's a Raptor fan, man. This disgusting.